Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls. Welcome to the second decan of Leo. Today, once again, we're going to explore the energy of strength and the ruling card, the Sun. And then we will look at the minor card that represents this decan, the Six of Wands. And I have several on the table here. This is the Way Home Tarot, the Slow Tarot, Wildwood, Lily White, and Father of Wands. I thought today we could have a look at this incredibly clever card from the Slow Tarot. This is the final decan for this court card. Intrigued and determined to digest the energy of the Woodward, I'd like to read a little bit from the guidebook from the Wildwood Tarot. The Woodward, an ancient guardian of the wildwood, symbolizes the inner power that comes from facing fear and understanding the nature of darkness. The inner strength that comes from this awareness gives the individual the emotional body language and the humility that says, "I am not a victim. Treat me with respect. Do not mistake my passivity for weakness." Within the Wildwood Tarot, the Woodward is a hunter whose prey is solutions to moments of crisis. He acts as an emotional backdrop when fate or the destructive energy in a situation faces us with seemingly irrational or overwhelming disaster. When the individual is removed from a place of seeming security, they are stripped of the emotional baggage that holds them in a state of limbo. This seems to be a key point. During this stripping away of illusory power, individuals find within themselves their true inner strength. A person who has learned from the experience of the journey around the wheel of the year gains vital wisdom about the nature of patience and resolution. However, neither of these qualities is enough on its own to give the spiritual hunter courage to forage in the wilderness again. A certain fierceness is needed. The hunter must be as strong or cunning as the creature they are tracking, as dedicated to their goal as the lioness is to protecting and feeding her cubs. This is not mindless, irrational aggression, but the tempered stoicism of a cool and resolute passion. The strength of the Woodward is both a balance and a dichotomy between the energy of the hunter or the guardian and the grounded inspiration found within the ecstasy of drumming and war dancing. These energies honor the qualities that provide protection and inspiration. For those of you who are not aware, strength is a vital link in the tree of life. It is a central path, a path connecting left and right pillar. It is one of 3 horizontal paths on the tree of life, and it is the center of those. It is also very close in connection to the sixes, one of which we will examine today, part of this very important triangle here that connects the 4s, the 5s, and the 6s. So strength is an art of balance. This art of balancing action and reception. And we see here in the Woodward, in their left hand, a bloodied spear, and in their right hand, a cup of receiving, a cup of giving, a cup of intoxication, it is described in the guidebook, a cup of compassion. And so this is a figure who has learned about the balance between giving and receiving, and the ability to hold and wield the spear in the hand of receiving, and to honor the cup of giving in the hand of solar energy. This is quite a card. This is a story of cool and resolute passion, an imperative quality to harmonizing our divine feminine and masculine self. The combination of the Strength and the Sun card is about directing vitality. It is about learning to manage this force so that it becomes a power we hold compassionately and carefully. We learn to wield it with foresight and caution, and we understand the nature of its power. And yet there is this interesting dichotomy, because if the purpose of strength is to destroy and to win, then underneath that power, there is an important lesson in sharing, in reaping and glowing in the abundance that that power gives with those that surround us, with those that have supported us along the way, with those that are in need. If we are able to integrate the joy that this power brings, then we will be able to transform this energy into a much higher frequency. There may be one who scored the tie-breaking shot to bring the team to victory, and yet there was an assist, there was training, there was coaching, there was camaraderie, and there was a lot that went into the victory we see illustrated here on this card. And so the thrill of that final shot, its abundance and glory, when shared, has the ability to transform. The Six of Wands is ruled by Jupiter, an energy of expansion, greatness, and glory. And so in the Six of Wands, the fire burns bright. It reaches a pinnacle and a brightness that fills the heart space. The sixes are at home in Tipheret, at the center of the Tree of Life, a place of beauty and balance, tranquility. This is central pillar stuff, harmony. We find ourselves here connected by the High Priestess and Temperance, and at least 8 paths on the Tree of Life emanate from this space and teach us what it means to move from the heart. Yes, this is a place of glory and victory, but it comes from, as I was mentioning in the Strength card, an integration of persistence and self-compassion, among other important qualities. For those of you that have climbed a mountain, taken a long path to the peak, perhaps to see the sunrise, this is an arduous journey. It requires planning, training, determination, and yet all those qualities that we may associate with the element of fire become rather small when we find ourselves at the top of the mountain, in the place of glory, where we may find ourselves speechless, in awe of nature, in awe of the glory of God, of the goddess. And suddenly we find ourselves transformed from an active hiker to a quiet and humble observer. This is one of the reasons why this card in the way home resonates deeply with me. I think in the Six of Wands, it's important to remember who all of the players in the background are. And as I mentioned, there have been a myriad of people who have supported you on your way to this success. There are those who arose early, stayed up late, paid the bills, encouraged, challenged, sewed your costumes, repaired your uniforms, made sure that you were fed. Whatever the scenario is in your Six of Wands, there are many people to thank. And when I think of all of the sixes in the tarot, this is one that fits so beautifully in the center, in the heart, this place of compassion, and one where if we can tap into the energy of gratitude, we will find a great sense of peace. In addition, when we are reflecting on the sephira of Tipheret, understanding that this is the home of the knights, the questers, those who seek, those who know that through a heroic journey, through a great deal of intention and determination, we have the potential to fulfill our wildest dreams. And all of the knights, so there are no knight cards on the table, begin their journey, begin their quest from the space of the heart. And in the Wildwood Tarot, we see the Sun of Life card and this figure here in an open-hearted standing posture, energy bursting from the heart space. And it is that energy, that love, that provides the fuel, the nurturing, that gives us the abundance you see pictured below. There is so much beauty if we allow ourselves to sit here in the glory of this abundance, to know joy, to know laughter and love. And it is through the balancing of opposites that we arrive here. And I am reminded of this concept of reciprocity being such an important part of the joy and success of this energy of the Six of Wands as the bird flies overhead. Not only do we enjoy the seeds and the beauty that the garden provides, but we also provide food for our feathered friends. The Six of Wands is a time of harvest. It is a time of abundance, and the gift of that abundance is meant to be shared. And I'm sharing with you again the Wildwood Tarot, though it follows its own seasonal patterns and traditions. There are some potent lessons in this tarot deck that I most certainly can apply to the Golden Dawn associations. And in this deck, the Six of Bows, the Six of Fire, has a direct correspondence to the Six of Stones that lies opposite it on the Wheel of Life. And the lesson here is that in this abundance and in this strength, there is a great responsibility to take care of that which we reap. And to return to the sports metaphor, there is a field that needs to be maintained. There is equipment that needs to be cared for. There are athletes' bodies that need to be iced and massaged and cared for. This great surge of energy comes with a natural consequence or a natural pairing of restoration. And I believe I mentioned in the last episode this pulse between expansion and contraction. And in this decan, we have moved from Saturnian contracting energy to the energy of Jupiter that is expanding. And this natural pattern of expand and contract, rise and rest, is one that repeats itself in incredibly beautiful ways in the tarot. Even the Woodward, though he remains cautious and protective of the land, is able to rest and to imbibe in the cup. This is the King of Wands from the Slow Tarot, an incredibly complicated card that needs to be examined slowly. The turquoise mask in the foreground of this card may represent the Aztec god of fire. This mask dates to the final century of the Aztec Empire, early 16th century. It is made from hundreds of small pieces of turquoise glued onto a cedar wood base and was meant to be either worn by a god impersonator in religious ceremony or worn by an effigy of the god. The mask was almost certainly part of the treasure brought back from Mesoamerica by Cortez and presented to Charles V. The energy of the mask worn by the shaman, worn in spiritual ceremony, is one to allow the energy of the shaman to reach a pinnacle of energy that allows for transformation. It allows the healer to connect with the energy of the divine and radiate that to all those present in ceremony. And so we see here a King of Wands that is deeply connected to the potential of their element. Transformation through fire. The third eye chakra is a light. The wand is a light. And yet, the King of Wands sits at their desk in a sense of peace, smoking a cigar. There is incredible command and presence here, an integration of the qualities of the element that have taken decades to understand and to cultivate. I wish I could read all of the titles on the books at the front of the desk. I'm sure there are some epic reads here. The bookend also caught my eye. It may be a jaguar, and it got me to thinking about tracking and how the hunter must be as skilled and clever as the animal that he is tracking. It also got me thinking about the energy of the jaguar and shamanism, and how this is so deeply connected to the invaluable lessons, the true nature of the Six of Wands. The sephira of the kings is Chockmah, said to contain everything, the cosmos, just one step below Keter. It sits atop the right pillar, and it's connected to Tipheret through the path of the emperor. And so in this decan, if we take away nothing else, let us learn to see the reciprocal nature of this strength, of this success. The crescendo that led to the Six of Wands is followed by a time of rest and healing and peace and integration. And the energy of the wheel not only teaches us about our greatness and expanding energy and the relationship between contraction and expansion, but it reminds us that all of these energies coexist, and that we must find a way to sit with these harmonizing energies simultaneously, as the Woodward does with his cup in his right hand, and as the King of Wands sits smoking his cigar over his dominion, over his plans, over his labors. I think this is a perfect decan to make a practice of meeting the sun, and maybe even taking that one step further, making that a practice to rise with the sun, to rise to meet the sun and the sunset, to observe how we respond, how our body responds to the discipline of such a practice. Could you rise for 10 days and meet the sunrise and sit in the splendor of all that is? The glory of the Six of Wands is all of this. It's all of this together. And I think in doing a decan walk, an important part of the process is learning how to describe, to understand that the Six of Wands isn't one card, but it's a connected energy of many cards. I think one of the greatest gifts of doing a decan walk, and I've done many of them and been teaching the tarot for a long time, and so this comes with practice. But what we can do is learn to see a card through its myriad of associations, and that any one card doesn't stand alone, and what the structure of the Tree of Life and the Golden Dawn corresponds gives us is an expanded view of every single card. And when I turn over the Ace of Pentacles, I'm not just looking at a number one, I'm looking at Keter. I'm looking at a relationship between Keter and Malkut. I'm looking at a connection between the aces and the fixed signs. I'm reflecting on a path from Keter through the High Priestess, through the Sun at Tipheret, through Temperance to Malkut. I'm reflecting on the path of the Fool and the path of the Magician as they move away from Keter. And when we don't usually talk about the aces when we're doing a decan walk, that is certainly something that I can include moving forward. And so through this second decan of Leo, may you all find a new relationship with the energy to push forward and find peace and comfort and transformation, even in acknowledging when it is time to rest and to heal. Take very good care of yourselves. Namaste.